my name is Stephanie Halsey, and today I'm going to be talking about my family history. I have one sister, and her name is Sarah, and she's a junior at the University of Kentucky, and she's 20 years old. I used to live in Raleigh, Texas until I was 4, and then my parents got divorced, and so my mom moved to Frisco, Texas. My mom is definitely the more serious and encouraging parent, and she's always been there for me. My dad moved to Dallas until I was 9, and then he moved to Frisco. My dad is definitely the more fun parent. For example, he hangs out with my friends even when I'm not there. After my parents got divorced, my grandma moved in with my mom, my sister, and me, and has lived with us for 14 years. In my family, religion is very important. We are Christian, and we went to church every Sunday and Wednesday, which influenced many of my life decisions and made me who I am. Through church, I served kids, which made me want to teach because I loved serving the kids. If I could describe myself in 5 words, I would say happy, fun, energetic, nice, and empathetic. I was born on March 11, 2000 in Dallas, Texas, and I've lived there my entire life, but I've traveled all across the United States. I've been to Scotland, England, Mexico, Honduras, Belize, and Canada. My favorite things to do are play sports, community service, and hang out with my friends. In the future, I hope to live in Hawaii and be an elementary teacher. And now for the best part of this presentation, who is my family? And here's my family tree. So first up are my maternal grandparents. My grandpa's name was Jack Chandler Clark, and here shows his birth certificate. He was born in 1933 in Denton, Texas. This also shows his University of Texas student ticket. He graduated from there in 1967. Here are pictures in his youth, and a certificate of service in the Army for the United States. This is my grandma, Belva Clark. She was born in 1940 in Vivian, Louisiana. The photo of my grandma is from her senior year of high school as prom queen. Here are pictures of my grandparents. They got married in 1962 and they were married for 40 years. They had 2 kids, my mom and my Uncle John. Then my grandpa died in 2002 when I was just 2 years old. Here's a pamphlet from his funeral, a newspaper article announcing his death, and a certificate of his death. This project has taught me the importance of remembering and learning about your family because they are your blood and it helps you feel more connected and understand them better. These are my maternal great-grandparents. My great-grandma's name was Daniel Dorothy. My great-grandpa's name was Walter Leland. The newspaper article on the left was a celebration of their 50th anniversary. They had 3 daughters, Reba, Belva, and Johnny. My great-grandfather died in 1991. Next is my maternal great-grandma. Her name was Susie Velma Chandler Mallow. Shown is the personal history of her life, which gives her parents' information, her marriage information, and her occupations. She was married twice, the first time to my grandpa's father. Also shown is a pamphlet from her funeral. She died in 2002, just months before her son, my grandpa, died. This is my maternal great-grandpa. His name was Flay Albert Clark. He was born on January 12, 1902, and died in January 1972. Shown is my grandpa's parents, Velma and Flay's marriage license. After he and my great-grandma Velma split, he was not involved in my grandpa's life. These are my maternal great-great-grandparents. Their names are Lula Glenn Anderson and William Arthur Daniel. These are my maternal great-great-grandparents. Their names are Annie Bell Price and Jesse Virgil Chandler. Jesse Virgil Chandler's father, or my great-great-great-grandfather, was Welcome William Chandler. So here are documents that describe how he moved to Texas in 1854 from North Carolina. He came with 7 slaves and 8 kids. He was the first settler in Brown County. He was elected as county judge and county treasurer. These documents describe his encounters with Indians who stole his horses, and also describe how he sold horses to the Confederate Army during the Civil War. Here's a list of all 13 of his children. My great-great-grandfather, Jesse Virgil, was his son. These documents describe how the 7 slaves of the Chandler family were given their freedom after the Civil War. Some chose to stay in Brown County and take the Chandler name. Here are final 2 articles on my great-great-grandfather. The left one lists him among the pioneer settlers of Brown County. This project has forced me to uncover some things about my family, good and bad, that I would have never known without doing this project. For example, I would have never known that someone in my family was a settler, but unfortunately he also owned slaves. I'm not as close with my dad's side of the family, unfortunately, so I have less information. My dad's side of the family is from Virginia and Kentucky, and so our family actually has a house in the mountains called the Halsey House. This is my grandma, Laura McGee. She was born in Richmond, Kentucky in 1940. This is my grandpa, Lester Halsey. He was born in 1935 in Somerset, Kentucky. Here are the records for my great-grandparents. Their names are Jesse Edgar Halsey and Rachel Isabel Anderson. Shown on the far left is the federal census of 1930. At the time of this record, they only had 8 out of their total 11 kids. The middle document shows Jackson E. Halsey's World War II registration card. The far right document is another World War II registration report that describes his physical features. Much of my dad's side of the family's information is unknown, and my grandfather could not even recall most of their names. Now for the most interesting part of my family tree, I saved the best for last. My great-great-grandfather's name was George Bear, and he was often referred to as Kentucky's meanest man or the Diamond King. The following newspaper article was written about George Bear's life. Early in his life, he got a glass eye as a result of a shootout with his brother-in-law. After losing around with the U.S. Marshal, he became a true gangster. He became known as the Diamond King because he sold real diamonds cheaper than wholesale. He became involved in interstate auto theft and was married to 5 women, fathered 4 legitimate children, one being my great-grandfather, and several illegitimate children. He served 3 different times in the military and used the military as training to become proficient with firearms. He constantly bragged that he'd killed 6 men, and everyone knew not to get in a shootout with him. In 1930, he visited his 6-year-old son who was being looked after by his 71-year-old mother. His son told him of a punishment that he received from his grandma, and then George Bear angrily shot his mother to death. George's sister, Rachel, tried to intercede, and George pistol-whipped her, and when she tried to escape by jumping into a passing mail truck, George then fired at the truck and shot Rachel in the head, killing her. He also shot and killed an FBI agent, but just months before, a new federal law came into effect making killing of a federal police officer a capital offense. George Bear then got the death penalty and was sentenced to death by hanging. And so here's my family tree. You'll notice 2 empty spots on my grandfather's side of the tree. This is because my grandpa did not know his grandparents and there were no records on them. After researching my family's history all the way back to the 1700s, I discovered that all my ancestors, every single one, came from some part of England. Ultimately, I love doing this project because it's helped me feel so much more connected to my family, and I've gotten to learn where I inherited certain traits from, and it's helped me understand who I am as an individual more.